many Cold Wars fought throughout our history. What if I told you one of the greatest Cold Wars of our time wasn't being fought between countries or superpowers, but was in fact being fought between generations? As I look out into the audience, I see that many of you are my contemporaries. Like me, you're probably trying to establish yourself. You might be hitting a brick wall as you're trying to get your momentum going. At some point, you're like, what can I do next? I need help. The next logical step might be to reach out to the older generation for help. But for me, I feel like I've done that multiple times. And I keep feeling like I'm not getting the answers I seek. There seems to be a rift, and I'm trying to figure out why. So what I did was, I went back to the history books. I went back as far as the greatest generation, the 1920s, the movement of the flappers and Prohibition. These were the people that cut their hemlines short and their hair shorter. They stayed out all night drinking and partying. Their parents, the lost generation, they were pissed. They began to cry out, "Where are the good girls? What happened to our good girls?" Fast forward 36 years to the baby boomer generation. These were our flower people. They protested, they smoked copious amounts of marijuana, practiced free love, and even started Woodstock. Their parents labeled them as lazy degenerates. They felt like they weren't going to amount to anything. But what's interesting about that is today, many of them are lawyers, are doctors, teachers, politicians, and veterans. They are the parents, teachers, coaches, and bosses to my generation, the millennial generation. As I went through the history, I started to look for themes. What was common? One of the things that I noticed is that the baby boomer generation was looked at a lot like mine. We're often perceived as self-serving, vain, always complaining, and always in our phones. I get it, we're not everyone's cup of tea. But I also feel that we can accomplish what the baby boomer generation did. Another commonality that I found was there was a fear. It was a deep fear. It was fear of a new thought, a new movement, and new technology. As we shift from our parents' train of thoughts and beliefs, they're trying to hold on as we're trying to let go and progress. I started to try and put together the pieces. Well, what can we do? How can we conquer that fear? And one of the things that came to mind was talking to each other, communicating, listening. My generation has a lot to be upset about. There's been a lack of affordable housing, a lack of jobs. There's been a lot going on in the government that hasn't made it easy for us. And we look to you because you've gotten through it. You know what to do. And we're asking for guidance so that we can know what to do. George Bernard Shaw had once said, "That's a pity that youth is wasted on the young." I don't believe that to be true. I believe that the baby boomer generation utilized their youth to go on and learn how to succeed. So for us, we're asking you, show us how to succeed. We know you have the right stuff, and we just want a little bit of that stuff. We're not asking you to give us your torch. We're asking you to light ours. We know you still have plenty of work to do. We're not asking you to take your seat from the table. We're asking you to pull up an extra chair. We want to sit next to you. we want to learn from you, and we want to gain that clarity and wisdom that you guys gained while you were growing up. For me, I believe that in regards to generational hostility, we can close this divide. We can bridge this gap. We can talk to each other. We can discuss the issues. I can learn from you. You can learn from me. Because it's not a relay race. I'm not asking you to hand me your baton. This is a marathon. I want to be right there next to you while you're running, while we get to the change that we seek, the progress that we need. So for me, intergenerational hostility isn't a problem that can't be solved. We can solve it, and we can solve it together. Thank you.